this morning. How are we doing this morning? Jan, we need to fire these people up.
Come on, let's hear it. Everybody. RTA!
All right, I think we're ready. All right, what questions do you have? In the past, Dad, during his demos, during his keynotes, he would do a lot of live demo, and then he would ask feedback. We've kind of moved away from that so that we could get through all the material, but then we wanted to make sure that we still provided an opportunity to, you guys have any question, you can pretty much fire away and ask me anything, ask any one of these guys anything. If we don't know, we have the entire team in the back that all throw questions to. So, what questions do you have for the staff? I know throughout the week you've probably gotten a lot of them answered, but anything that's burning through your mind. Sandy's got one.
Not a question, a comment.
A comment.
Great speakers this year. Not a question, just a comment. Thanks a lot.
Is that something you want to see us continue doing, is bringing in external speakers? And all right. I certainly like it. It means I don't have to be up on stage as much, and I think they bring a different energy than, each one of them has a different flavor. So how many people really liked Dr. Disney? That was her favorite speaker. All right, and Randy Fox. Yeah, I think that was one of my personal favorites. Steve, how many people really enjoyed his? All right. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Josh.
So that's me being at home. I don't need to ask about myself. You guys aren't going to get rid of me. I'm always going to be speaking. All right, other feedback, other items that maybe our strategy, maybe you have questions about product, maybe you got questions about why we're doing certain things. Yeah.
So when will you have version 8 out?
Version 8. Boy, I don't know. 7.3 would have been the next one, so 10 years?
With the really to have a real answer to that question, I don't know if we will. With the shift to web and mobile, web and mobile will be a continuously updated product. We won't really have version numbers on web. Well, we do, but not that we're going to broadly publicize unless we have some really large major change that we're going to implement. As far as the desktop software, I don't know that we will have a version 8. We could.
We're doing a lot more incremental updates, like
Yeah,
you've seen, like 7.25, 7.26.
Yeah, and we're going to be continuing to do like quarterly, at least quarterly updates to the desktop software. But most of the emphasis is going to be on web and mobile. That's where all our new feature development is going.
All right, good question. Other questions? He's got another one.
When will the self-hosting people see the website? Not the mobile yet. I know it's more of a hassle for that side, but the website.
So we talked about this a little bit during our, one of the open, what did we call them? Forums.
Mm-hmm.
One of the
round
forums
tables.
yesterday.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Running RTA yourselves is very easy, right? You deploy it to a file server. Typically, you have a SQL box that's running, if you're running SQL, and you set a connection string, and then whoever runs that executable, it just works, right? It's very easy. To run a website, to run RTA web and mobile, it takes 2 different websites, SSL certificates, multiple servers, a hosting system called Docker. You have to have these Docker images deployed and running, and configuration. There's a lot more moving parts, and it adds a lot of complexity. One of the things that we've seen with a lot of our customers is you don't get a lot of support from IT. Now, I know that's not the case with everybody, but for a lot of our customers, they just you don't get a lot of support from IT. And so adding something that's even more complex into the mix for our on-premises customer isn't really something we want to do right now. If we have a huge demand from a lot of our customers and you sign off saying, oh yeah, I can run Docker images, I know how to do my SQL connections, I can do all the configuration management, I have really great support from my IT staff, it might be something we consider. But right now it really isn't something we're ready to do because it not only adds complexity on your side, it also adds complexity on our support side. Like, how do we get this thing supported and implemented? And we got to have more guys who are really good with IT infrastructure on our support side as well. So it adds a lot of complexity, and that's the reason why we haven't gone there yet.
You can tell this is my first time. I mean, even in our industry, we're application developers, we're programmers. The state-of-the-art technology is going towards shuffling the operations of managing that infrastructure off into the cloud for other companies that specialize in that, because our core business is not managing servers and doing all this kind of stuff. Our core business is helping you do your business, and so the state-of-the-art technology is about letting the minutia of technology just kind of go away, and you focus on what's most important, and being able to have the right tools in the right place for the right job, and not have to worry about each of those things. And so I think there's a lot of really great things that can come from focusing on making sure we're delivering really good features. And when there's specific cases for, this is necessary for us to be able to get work done, having it run in a certain place, to be able to support that as well. But all things in good time.
Yeah, I think my take on it obviously is a little bit different than the technology side of it. I would love for you guys to be able to run on-prem and have it where you need it, but I also recognize the complexity and the burden that puts on you. And you and I had a conversation earlier about some of the things that we're able to do because we control the entire environment. We know what SQL Server version it is. We know what Windows operating system it is. We control that. And so if there's a variation in there, we can control for that, we can test for it, we can make sure that the quality is right, that it works. You throw that out into the wild and you push that right now, what we have to do, we have to test against 5 different versions of SQL Server. And then with those 5, we have to test against probably 3 to 4 different versions of Windows Server, and then another 5 to 10 different versions of Windows Client. You multiply that all together, that's 100 different scenarios that we have to run against and make sure that it still works because everybody's a little bit unique. Then on top of that, there's probably 1,000 some odd functions. I'm probably even understating that within RTA. John probably knows better than I as he goes through and does these tests, how many test scenarios he has to run, and then you have to repeat that 100 times. So the quality suffers because of that. So we look at things like that. How can we get it to on-prem? It's something we have discussions about all the time. When will it happen? We don't know. But is it something that I push for every day? These guys know that. So. So it could be. I don't know. It won't. It definitely wouldn't cost the same. That's the other side of it too. Is that right now the way the support cost is structured, it reflects that it's fairly easy to deploy that. It's fairly easy for us to support it. It works. But shifting to web and mobile, it is a inherently more complex technology. It's why Dad never did it. He wanted to go there, but it was a bridge too far. It's because it was a really complex thing to nail it, to get it right. And it just, so going through that, and now we're here, and we kind of have to go that direction, figuring out the right steps and making sure that we put it in the right place. The only way we can get all these features out to you that we're showing today, paperless shop mobile, web mobile, all of that stuff, the only reason that it's gotten here so quickly is because we're going the cloud route. Had we gone on-prem, you probably triple or quadruple the amount of time that it takes to develop that and test it. So, good questions, though. This is the kind of discussion that I was looking forward to. Challenge us on some of the stuff we're talking about. Challenge us on some of the direction we're taking. In one of my other classes, I said, if you're in a boring meeting, you need more conflict. Conflict makes meetings fun, right? All right, I got some questions for you. You got one in the back, perfect.
Kind of explain the differences between your mobile web and SaaS, what is, or on the cloud or whatever, what really is the difference between them?
So there isn't, right? So SaaS is kind of this overarching umbrella that covers us hosting the desktop application, providing you access to the web application, and providing access to the mobile application. All three of those, they're kind of companions. They complement each other, but they all run inside of the SaaS platform. So SaaS itself is, the definition of it, software as a service, right? So what kind of software are we providing? Well, we're providing mobile, web, and desktop software. And so the SaaS subscription covers all three of those. So the biggest one when you guys come on to a SaaS subscription or you go hosted is that hosting of the desktop application, because that's what you use today. But as more and more features get into web, you're going to start using more and more of that in line with desktop and using more of the mobile features as those come out. All right. More graphics on the master screens. It's like an inside joke here I don't know about. When will you see that? I know in our designs for web, that's one of the things that we've considered doing, is having a picture of the vehicle front and center so it's easy to identify. Of course, if you look at one excavator and compare it to the next excavator, there's not going to be a ton of difference, especially if you take the photo in the same spot. But yeah, that's something we've talked about for a while, is having at least one master photo in each of the records so that you can identify that record a little easier. Yeah. That is on the roadmap.
Very soon.
Very soon. It has to be soon, because it's one of the things that Paperless Shop is going to need.
Are you looking at adding an email for each vehicle so that, like, we have a lot of assigned vehicles, the department has some of the
Mhm. I think it's at least on the feedback side. I know we have a way of tying the operator to a vehicle, but that requires that you set up your drivers as drivers in the employee file. They don't have to have user logins, but you need to set up their driver IDs in the driver file, and then you can assign that as an operator. Unless you get an export from your HR department, and then you can import that through the master import-export records. But then you have to manually assign it to the vehicle, which you'd have to do anyway if you were to type in an email address. So. Like an audit log on there. It's not currently on the roadmap. Is it on the feedback site? I haven't seen that one yet. If it's not on the feedback, we've talked about it. I don't know if we've ever put that on the feedback site, but that's probably where that'll start. Doug mentioned too is that if we can get some of these quick wins, if there's little features, that just we can develop in a day or two, we don't have a problem doing some of those, because it's quick wins. It makes you more productive. The idea that the trouble is just figuring out which of those to focus on. How do we prioritize that? Which is why that feedback site is so critical to us, because it helps us know where the biggest pain points are. Not just one person, but 10 people. How do we make the biggest impact we can? And so, really push that feedback site as much as we can, because it's an ongoing conversation there. And things of that nature. But how many people would don't want to set their drivers up? How many people don't want to put their drivers in as operators on the vehicles? Okay, you'd rather just type in an email address and then have it be a static email? All right. And then you'd want to be able to audit how long that email address was there. How many people would be interested in something like that? All right. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put that on the feedback site, and I'm going to say go out and vote for it. Get it over 12 votes, because that seems to be about the max anybody votes on an issue. And we might even be able to, Doug, you correct me if I'm wrong, can we give out bonus votes maybe for Connect attendees? Is that something we can do, is tier them up?
Yeah, some people, we can increase their level.
Okay.
Yeah. Angie already has, she's about as high as you can go. We love your opinions. We love your opinions. And it's great because we love the fact that you're giving us ideas. This all goes back to, what Josh was talking about and making a positive impact, and what I was talking about why I got into software development is so we can help people solve real problems. We can kind of sit in our ivory tower and think about things that we think need to happen, and there are things that we definitely know need to happen, like this shift to web and mobile. But if that's not driven by your feedback, it's not benefiting you, really we're wasting our time. And so we want to make sure that we're doing stuff that really benefits you, and getting feedback like that is awesome.
And just so you know, too, on that feedback site, is the more you participate, the more votes you get. It's kind of a reward system. So the more topics you post on there, the more comments you make, then you end up getting more votes. You start with 10, I think.
I think so.
Right. We're putting you on the spot here. So
I don't have it in front of me, so.
I think it's about 10, but the more you participate, the more you contribute, then you start leveling up. You get more votes back as part of that, as part of being an active member on the community. So.
Who knows how to get to the feedback site? Okay, not enough.
Every hand's going to go up after this.
Feedback.rtafleet.com. Take out your phone. You can do it from your phone. If you don't have an account, you can create your own account out there, and that'll let you start posting comments and questions. In addition to the product ideas, we have kind of two sections. We have a product ideas section there, and then we have a general discussion area. So if you have questions about managing your fleet, you can post something to the general discussion area, and everyone at RTA will get a notification who's subscribed, and then all of your peers that are in this room and throughout the country or throughout the world who have an account on that website can also start contributing and talking about ways to solve problems. So it's kind of, not only is it a place to provide us product feedback, but it's a great place to have discussion with your peers about how to do things better or problems you're having, how to overcome things. In fact, I was talking with some folks from Cassins this morning, and they were talking about the problems they have because, or just challenges they have because of union labor. And it would be great to have them have a way to interface with other companies that have union labor to understand the challenges and unique situations that arise from that. We were talking about employee motivation. How do you motivate union labor to do their job in a really in a good way, and to be performant and do all those things that we want to do to optimize your fleet. And I'm sure other people in this room and throughout the world have had those same problems, and have some great ideas for them. So that's a great place to go out and have a great discussion, to go back and forth and get ideas from other people as well. Feedback.rtafleet.com. And we have some cards. If you stop by the front desk, we have some feedback, or some little business cards essentially that have that URL on them, if you want to get those.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, we usually include it on the bottom of our email signature as well, make it easy for you to find. So, because it is something we really value.
Not yet, but we're going to add it there. It needs to be there.
Yeah, it's something we rolled out last year. We actually, for conference last year, we got rid of the wish list cards, and then we went back home. We're like, all right, let's go check out how much feedback we got, and we had like 3 posts. So it's like, oh man. So I brought back. You notice that we have the paper cards again this year, just because I wanted to make sure that the technology wasn't stopping you from providing feedback. But that really is, all those cards are going to go right back onto that site. And so I'd really recommend, if you want to be part of that discussion, you want to help steer the direction of RTA, that's the best place to do it. That's going to have the most influence over what we're doing. So how many people go out or seeing the YouTube channel that we throw out there? So we're working on, and I think we've done a couple of these already, just little mini videos up online. Little how-to videos, like all of our releases in the last year. we've published, or at least we've documented on there, you know, what's in the new feature release, and tried to give you a little bit more training than just reading a what's new feature document. How many people have found that helpful? Have found the what's new videos helpful? How many people didn't know we had what's new videos? All right. So when we send out your update emails, let's go into your primary and alternate contacts, and there's a link in those every time for the YouTube. And I think we even send out videos to everybody else in our contact list too. We just don't give them the link to do the update. But use that, because it's a really helpful way to know what's coming down, what new updates are coming out. And then in our focus, Kevin and Larry and a couple others are going to be working on these little mini how-to videos, rather than the 2 and 3 hour trainings that you've been seeing and accustomed to with like BT 101 and those kind of series. Having these little mini how-to videos that you can just watch and say, how do I add a vehicle? And it's a 5-minute snippet about how to add a vehicle. How do I add a work order? And it's a 5-minute walkthrough of creating a work order for the first time. And so instead of having to go through this big, long 3 and 4 hour video, it's very micro-focused. So, yeah. Terrific. All right, other comments, questions? Protect the line notes after the work order is closed. So I can't go in and edit line notes once the work order line is closed or the work order is closed? Either? All right, how many people would find a feature like that helpful or they really need that feature? All right. Well, maybe just a user switch. We try to avoid level 2 and level 3 as much as possible. We'll do a user security permission, edit closed work order line notes or something like that. All right, so tagging notes somehow, or that makes it a little bit more difficult. I can do one really quickly. I don't know about the other, but all right. So here's what we're going to do with that. We're going to go to feedback.rtafleet.com. All right, she's putting it
There you
on.
go,
I
Angie.
love
Put
it.
it on
All right, who's going to go on and vote right after she puts it on?
All right.
There we go.
It's very simple to go in there, just sign in, look at the items, browse through it, because you guys have some great ideas. You can sort through and sort it by votes, vote for your favorite features. Again, that's why we don't give you unlimited votes, is because we want you to really focus on what's most important to you, that vital few. But go out there and vote for your peers' ideas, submit your own ideas. Yeah. I don't know if I would put it in the master notes, just because of where the master notes end up printing. That's more of a what they do after the fact. But I don't imagine it would be very difficult to add a next button inside the line notes screen, so that you could browse and just move between line notes quicker. Because I think that's the real issue, is that you want to be able to see notes quickly without having to pop the line notes, close, pop the line notes, close, because there's probably 3 or 4 clicks in there that you have to do to select the next line and then click line notes. So does that sound more in line? Like that would be more helpful? So, because if we did the master notes print on the bottom of the work order. There's literally only about 1 inch of space, and it fits about 5 lines. We might be able to get 6 and 7, but that's about what you can do on the bottom of a work order. And then it doesn't really become helpful because you can't reprint those. So I would probably say put some kind of a preview or a next, like a previous next button in the line notes screen. So, yeah, but we can look at that. Another great suggestion for the feedback side as well. So, and these are the kind of things we're looking for. What are the quick little wins we can do that, don't necessarily detract from our mission of getting web and mobile out, and won't slow us down on paperless shop and driver reports, because we got a lot of work to do. I mean, you know how big RTA is. We're trying to get all those features ported over, and it's a lot of work. So if we can get some wins in the meantime, it's good.
Can one of you from RTA take notes? No one is. So
Put it on the feedback site, RTA.
okay. At some point, someone's gonna have to watch the video and take notes. So might as well do it now. Eddie.
There's been discussions in the past in the paperless shop aspect of doing a separate labor transaction for each day. Because you get some of these big jobs that last a week or 2 weeks, whatnot, and you get one labor transaction that's the current date, and then you get people saying, okay, you got 60, 80 hours here. Explain it.
So we have that already. It's just tied to an enhancement code, if I remember right. Does that sound right, Jake and John? It's tied to an enhancement code, I believe, to split the labor into each single day. I know that we have that feature, but I think it's. Thank you. On that day, right? So. Right. And so each new day, you get a new transaction. No, it's in the work order. It creates a new labor transaction on the work order. But right now, it's buried, like 3C notes is buried behind an enhancement code. And so we would have to send you that enhancement code, but that enhancement code is tied to 3 other features that you will not want. And so it's a matter of splitting it out from that enhancement code. So, all right. How many people do paperless shop and would rather have that, where you have one transaction each day? TransDev already has this feature. You can put your hand down. They're the ones who have the features you don't want. So how many people would, hold on, Eddie, how many people would find that helpful? All right. Now, what were you saying?
It doesn't matter if you clock in 3 or 4 times for that job one day because you got pulled out for other things. One transaction for that day.
Yep. Yep.
Like it's kind of done now, but it'd be nice to have separate days.
Right. So it'll do each day, and then the next time he clocks on, it'll check again, is today that day? And if it's not that day, then it's going to create a new transaction. So. Sooner is always nicer. Yesterday was nicer, right? Well, and we have it out there, right? Just pulling it out is the challenge there. But again, we go back to, it might have been talked about, we might have had discussions around it, but is it something that there's a lot of support for? Is it something that we really need to focus on right now, right? You all know how limited resources work, and so that's kind of where we have that same issue as well, as we can't do everything, but what can we do? So we focus on the ones that are going to make the biggest impact, which is why, I keep saying it, is we have to get that feedback site. You have to get out there and vote, because that's how you make a change. That's how you can affect change of what we're working on. It might not be. And so if you do, go out there, find it, and then vote on it, and then tag your peers and say, hey, we need to get some momentum behind this, Yeah, Nathaniel.
I know I've asked this before, and a few times I've called about it, is a auto clock out feature for the mechanics. I have to run and report at least twice a month and find these guys that forgot to clock out, went on vacation, and have ran up repair bills on vehicles. Do 242 hours because they forgot to clock off of the job. So is there a coming in the future to say, hey, this, because for us, we don't authorize overtime unless we tell them they can. And most of the time they work 8.5 hours. So is there a way to do a feature or anything like that?
Yeah, we've been looking at a number of ways to be able to do this, specifically with regard to what we're doing with paperless shop on mobile. A few months ago, we did a ship it, and one of my prototypes was being able to have when the mechanic arrives at the facility, he gets a notification that says, "Hey, looks like you're at work. would you like to clock in? He can clock in from his phone. When the phone detects that he's away from his facility, the GPS knows that he's gone, he gets another notification that says, okay, you're no longer where you're supposed to be. Do you need to clock out? So there's nice reminders there. Other mechanisms we've been looking at is being able to align it with a schedule. So we know that you're supposed to be in at this time in the morning and you're leaving at this time in the afternoon, and this is the time that you should probably take your lunch. And so we can remind you and proactively encourage you to make sure you do those things. And so I think being able to have RTA with you where you go is a really important aspect of being able to make the software smarter and to be able to make it easy for people to manage their accountability. And I think that's a really important aspect. One thing that I will say that I would like to encourage you, along with trying to get you all into the feedback site, is think about your process for how you do your continuous improvement. You can't improve what you don't measure, and you can't improve what you're not aware of. And so as you've been doing things in the same way for a long time, you've gotten used to them, you've gotten good at them, you've been able to be able to move through lots of these processes in a really quick amount of time. But in the moments of time when you think, gosh, I wish I'd be able to do this in RTA, I didn't have to go back to the computer terminal to be able to do this, pause right there, open your phone to the feedback site, and I want to know, what are the things that you'd like to do in RTA, then you don't have to walk back.
Tag Dustin on those, because that's the one he wants.
Yeah, tag mobile.
Right. I think it was Jeff who talked about, a picture of New York Times Square, where, they had all those horse-drawn buggies, right? And then the one Model T, and then within 10 years it had flipped. There was one horse-drawn buggy. I think, if you would talk to people back in the early 1900s about what they need, what they want, they weren't looking for a car, right? They didn't want a Model T. What they wanted was faster horses. And so sometimes we have to kind of take that step back and ask, are we trying to do faster horses, or are we trying to switch over to the Model T? Because I think we can all agree that had we demanded faster horses in the 1900s, we wouldn't have the cars that we have today, right? If Ford hadn't figured out how to do the assembly line and make automobiles cheap, and that hadn't taken off the way it did, things would be a lot different today. So keep that in mind too. Is is this something that that we're looking for faster horses? Kind of like the Master Notes. Is that a faster horse feature, or is there a different way that we can do a Model T feature and turn it into a better process? To your point, maybe it's not auto clock out, but maybe it's push notifications to a cell phone, right? And we've heard that as well, is that you might have to supply company phones and things like that. Notifications to managers at the same time we notify a technician, is not a bad idea either. Especially if we can get a schedule, I think that'll help more than anything. So, because an email notification to your box 30 minutes after that mechanic was supposed to clock off is going to be probably more helpful than just clocking him off, right? So, we have it in the dashboard. You can go right now and run a dashboard. You can run the activity screen. I can tell you who's been clocked in longer than 8 hours. I could tell you who's been clocked in over the estimated time on a shift. So the paperless shop activity screen, and there's a dashboard widget that you can run both of those. And if there's a dashboard widget, guess what else there is? There's an alert. And so you can set up dashboard alerts to flag on that as well. But you have to go set that up. So the schedule is the kick. The schedule is the key. All right, Larry's telling me we're out of time. We are completely out of time. We're done. All right. I'm going to get this one last question in, and then we'll close real quick. Yeah.
I don't know. Would there be a timeout feature that you could put in the employee's profile to put their hours that they normally are scheduled to work, and then once they pass that, say by 15 or 20 or 30 minutes, we would clock them off? Is that a possibility? I don't know how the whole software thing works, but
We can automate that process.
we have a time, your first shift, second shift people.
Right.
If they do forget, and it's that long weekend, it would automatically time them out, and they would just be clocked off.
we can automate it. The question is, you know, do we want to automate it, or do we want to make, you know, have that conversation? Because if you automate it, well, now you're kind of reinforcing the bad behavior, right? And now you've got 15 to 30 minutes extra that are unaccounted for every time because the system just does it for me. I'd almost want to notify you and notify them, and then you have that conversation and correct that problem. You know, forgetting to clock out, forgetting to punch out. What if I forget to pay you? You know, I mean, that's it, right. There's a different issue there, and I don't want the automation to cover up the sin. We need to make sure that it's, you know, that we're addressing that problem. But so, if the automation is something you're really interested in, again, put it up on the feedback site, and you know, and other people will vote for it if they're in that same boat. So, was this helpful at all? Was this a good use of time? Because we pegged this for Friday morning because, you know, most people end up leaving. You can notice our numbers are dwindling. We started with 151, and if I count you up today, I'm going to bet we're at maybe 80, 90, maybe if we're lucky. You know, so, but we wanted to make sure that we were still giving you the opportunity to have a nice open discussion, honest, open answers, all in front of everybody. So, is this something we want to continue doing in the future? All right. All right. Nope, you have one more thing.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the feedback site. As you noticed, we actually get notification on this feedback site. Thank you to the people that have already put in feedback. I've already looked at the feedback. I get an email every time a feedback happens, and Josh always beats me to it. So I just want to let you know that Josh is looking at this, and he's actually answering. We had one customer ask about 3 notes, and another customer said, wait a minute, I didn't even know that existed. So it's helping you out as other customers are putting in feedback. I just want to let you know that feedback is awesome, and we like it, and you will benefit from it. Promise you that.
All right. Well, thank you guys all very much.